right. So this is Flosstube 26 Part B. And this is Lisa Smith, Kindred Stitcher. Here is my 2019 WIP Parade. I've tried to simplify this by pulling everything out and putting it out in front of me, but when I go through it, I might have to pause and pull stuff closer to me because there's some stacks here. So let's get started. First, I want to show you my good friend Lori, textilist, and I were at a bazaar during Christmas, and I kept eyeballing this basket, but I had done my shopping. I had done my damage, and I kept looking at it. I love red's probably my very favorite color, and Lori went back to the vendor and had this made for me. So I love it. It's such great quality. It is signed by the lady who made it. And it's a nice size. It's very sturdy. And look at the detail. All of the twisted cording in here. I guess it's not cording if it's jute or whatever material that is. And it's just, it's lovely. I can't wait to use it to display my stuff in my house. So let's get started. In the Stitch 9 challenge, I told you that I was missing my Little House Needlework that were WIPs. And here they are. I found them. This is John Hancock, and this is probably 70% done. So that will really take one evening to finish. This one is Paul Revere, and there is The Beginning of a Tree. These are all Stitch Mania, starts from last year. Abigail Adams. I guess I should show you the front of this, huh? A window. This is Betsy Ross, and these are so adorable. Here's part of her house. This is Patrick Henry, and just a little bit of, I think that this goes this way to the steps going into his house. So these are all stitched on 32 count vintage Pearl Barley. Vintage Pearl Barley is probably my favorite Lakeside linens color, although Lakeside has a huge range of colors and it's beautiful fabric. I had toyed with stitching these all in one and doing Vanna's border, but I just decided I wanted more pillows, although I will tell you, my husband came into the craft room today, and toward that end of the room, I wanted him to build me put a built-in cabinet in. And he came out here and was measuring, looked around, and he came in and goes, "You got a lot of little pillows everywhere. They're pin keeps." So I had to give him an education on what's a pin keep, but he sees more of these things and he's like, whatever. Whatever makes you happy, dear. Here's another Stitch Mania start. Wilhelmina with the called for overdyes. I pulled a lot of these from my stash, sorry. And this is as far as I got. I probably shouldn't leave the needle in there, but I did. This is I don't know, it's a linen of some kind. And I have a white frame that it will fit in. So this is probably an evening stitch. This would be part of my next 9 challenge. If I get my first 9. If I live past getting my first 9 done. So you may have seen this one before. This is Prairie Schooler Prairie Flowers. I have the pattern somewhere. I looked around my house. Do you think I could find it? No. And I had it in my hands earlier today. So I wasn't going to spend any more time on it. But this one is the first. And this is not, it does not look like Prairie Schooler, does it? And that's because the colors, I completely substituted silks. This is a sort of I pulled the threads as I would go along, and instead of doing 4, I think they have 2 and 2 on the design, I'm doing all one long. And they're different baskets, so there'll be 4 baskets in a row. This was so much fun to stitch on. I really enjoyed it. It's super soft, great springtime look to it, and I look forward to getting back to that one, which will be pretty much what you'll hear me say through this whole video. This one is Abigail Colby's Work Basket. I started this in the Midwest Cross Stitch Retreat. This is Primitive Traditions, and I am a huge fan of Primitive Traditions now. I started it at the Midwest Cross Stitch Retreat in the fall, and it calls for Belsois silks. I got this off a stash and load, and the silks were included. I think I got a pretty good deal on it if I remember correctly. But this is The silks are amazing. And of course, it's probably not going to show on the camera as well as it would in real life, but this is espresso. This one is cinnamon stick. This one's amazing. This one is fawn, very warm color. And this last one is baguette. Sorry, kind of a hot mess there. So I could not find, I was looking for this basket and I really couldn't find it anywhere. And then I decided after watching Beth Twist's video on how to cover a box that I think I will just use a paper mache box and use fabric on the bottom and cover this on the top. So I'm looking forward to that. This is, and there's another pattern that goes with it that is all of the little, you know, scissor holder, needle case. There's a little accoutrement that goes with it. Lovely stitch. I enjoy that one a lot. Here we have Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain by Cathy Varrick. And I love this one. I love it. This is stitched on a fabric by hand dyed by Stephanie, and I'm stitching it. I think this is 32 count. It was not big enough to do the whole thing on there because it's just too big to go on a fat quarter. It only have had a ½ an inch all the way around, so I'm stitching it over one. And look at that little owl! Isn't he cute? And this lady, she's super creepy. The fabric is, I don't remember the name. I want to say moss might be the name. And it looks like moss. It's just a very lightly mottled green and beautiful piece of fabric. Isn't it amazing? Don't you just love what fabric dyers come up with? I think, how'd you think about that? And I think, well, maybe I could do that. And I try it, and it doesn't look the same. Does not look the same. So here's one, Gathering Pine Cones, Hillside Samplings, and I do have the button for that. This is mostly, all the borders done, the alphabet's done, the satin stitch is done. All that's left on this is the pine cones that are specialty stitch and the acorns that go around, and then to put the button on there. So I don't know that there's a lot that left to do, except, you know, specialty stitches aren't necessarily hard. You just have to sit down and figure out how to do them and then do the whole thing, right? So once I can dedicate some time, I'm just going to see if I can knock this out. Maybe in the fall. Maybe. Here's a Stitch Mania start from 2018. Praiseworthy Stitches, Sunflower Bee Garden. How doth the busy little bee improve each shining hour and gather honey all the day from every opening flower. And this is a little bit of a departure from what I would normally stitch on. This is, I think it's Kaleidoscope, hand dyed by Stephanie. It's sort of a muted gray blue multicolor piece of fabric, and this is the Beehive. It looks like a piece of toast. It's kind of the running joke. So getting some stitches on this will help me get excited. It's right now I'm just not too, I don't know, I'm not 100% sold on it. The fabric is lovely, the pattern is lovely. I was just going for something different, and I don't know, we'll see. It's 32 count Jobelan. I was on a Jobelan kick for a while, and simply because Jobelan it dyes very soft and like pillowy almost. It's just, it doesn't get completely saturated with color like some of the others would. But it's distinct in the way it dyes. This one is My Lady's Garden, I believe, by Mirabilia. And I think the last time I worked on this was sometime, I might have worked on it last year, I can't remember. Stitched on 32 count Bridget, hand dyed by Stephanie, I believe. I don't know if it's Leslie's or if it's Stephanie's. This one is one of the few Mirabilias that does not have beads on it. So I left some unstitched spots, and I'm going to put beads. I'm going to add beads. I know, like I don't have enough to do, but if you look at this, there's some colors that sort of pop and glow, and I want those to be highlighted with beads. This one, she's big. I mean, look how big that is. But she's lovely. Like, this is going to be so much fun when it's done. Love it. Here's let's see. This is out of an antique. That's almost an antique book, Cross Country Stitching, right? And it is Redware. The title is called Redware, and this is from, what is this? February 2006. So if you guys watch some of my older videos, you know that I am a painter as well, and I enjoy primitive painting, sort of rosemalling, and I finished my ancestry profile, and I am 47% Norwegian, 34% Swedish, 5% Finnish, and the rest is like Britain, Scotland. So my grandmother was Danish and my grandfather was Norwegian. So my mother's like, how are you not any Danish at all? And I said, well, it does update and edit as more people add DNA information into the system. So it could be that that will evolve, but also migratory patterns are such that, I mean, Norway's just across the pond, just across the sea there to Denmark. So my mom said, though, that we have family and have had family for a long time in Denmark. So I don't know. But it intrigues me because rosemalin comes from Scandinavian countries. And I am stitching this over one, and this is on a Dixie sampler fabric. I could not tell you the name of it. I don't know what it is, but it's over one. And it's fun. It's so fun. Look at those little birds. And their little checkered jackets, wings that they have. And the Redware is all this checkerboard color. It just makes me happy. I love this color palette. Here are the threads, although I wrote myself a note because I kept taking threads out of the bag to work on other projects. So I have to replace them if I want to continue on with this particular pattern. So, I just love this, you guys. Every time I touch my whips, I'm like, I want to work on this. No, I want to work on that. No, I want to work on everything. Here is Peaceful Garden by Moira Blackburn. So this is this one is really blocks of colors, and she stitched it in DMC, and I changed this completely. This is stitched on 40 count platinum, and I used over-dyed threads. And there's quite a bit of stitching on here. This is a 40 count. I love working on it though. And so it's one of those things where you can kind of outline. You're like, okay, I just got to outline this area and then I can fill that in. So it feels like you're accomplishing work as you move along. But they're tiny stitches. Oh my gosh. And you guys, look at this hedgehog down here. Hedgehog and squirrel. Look at them. Aren't they stinking adorable? I love them. Super cute. All right, another beauty, and Jan Hicks. So I think Jan started this after I showed my start, and now she's just cruising along. She had a Stitch With Me video where she was working on it. This is on, I think this is a Lakeside. It's 40 count. I want to say it might be Mariner White, and I'd have to go back and look at my notes. It's the lead sampler by Rosewood Manor. This came out at market last year, and I couldn't buy it fast enough. So she's stitching on Helix, and mine's a whiter background. But this is stitched with Silky Petite, threads, which is you stitch with 1 thread instead of 2, but on 40 count it's very plump. And that's okay with me. I really like the way it looks. It's got great coverage. And it's so, so fine looking on this fabric. So, gosh. You know what it is? The seasons come around, right? And this is what I want to start working on. I need to work on my Stitch 9 challenge and get a couple of them done before I feel the itch and the urge to work on more spring type patterns. All right, got some Mirabilias here. This is Persephone. Persephone is, I worked on her before I really knew about hand-dyed fabrics. So this is one of my foray back into cross stitch. I started working on her and I have quite a bit done. I need to, really I just got to do the skirt down here, the arms, so it's more the dreaded over one skin. But I completely changed the colors of the background wallpaper. So this wallpaper has sort of a brownish Karen water lilies look to it. And I changed it to, this is DMC, variegated, and I can't remember what this dark blue is. But I just didn't really care for the, I like the background that's stitched, but I don't really care for the colors. So there's still quite a bit of her because this dress goes way down here. And I don't have plans to get back to her this year, but we'll see. That thing got dirty. Somehow, along the way, the fabric's a little bit dirty. Another, oops, I'm gonna get lint all over me. Florentina, another Mirabilia. So this is stitched on, I want to say it is not fruit punch, but it's something rhubarb. The fabric is phenomenal. Look at this fabric. So beautiful. I'm not sure though, and I did do some beading here because I wanted to see what it's going to look like. Her skin looks a lot like the background fabric. So, but she's outlined, so that's okay. I just am not sure. If I were to go back now, I'm not sure that I would pick the same fabric for her, although it's really that green. Look at this. That looks great. I don't know. I might have to do like a next 9 Mira, you know, work on my Stitch 9 Mira. Here's one. Here's another Mira. Lady, what is her name? Lady of Mystery. So it's interesting. Witchell puts this out, and they use Witchell fabric, but I don't know that I always love Witchell fabric with the Mirabilia designs. I used this is Fantasy Dyed Fabrics, 32 count Joblin. Look at this. Look at that fabric. Isn't that stunning? So she will come out, and most of her dress will be in the lighter area, but hopefully it'll sort of highlight around her dress and make her really pop out on this fabric. This makes me definitely want to stitch on her. Oh, look at that. Oh, jeez. And I want to say there was 1 or 2 Karen water lilies. She usually uses 1 or 2 on her patterns. All right, moving along. 2017 Linen and Threads Mystery. So this is the last one. I don't have a page printed off where it's all dark, but you could see the shape of it. And I'm not anywhere close to being done on this. This has probably a few weeks worth started. That's it. And this is the same variegated DMC that I used in the background of Persephone. Is it Persephone? Yeah. And I think this is just on a Zweigart linen. I love it though. I add a little bit of Kreinik down here, and it's fun. This is a fun one to stitch on. I sort of call it my peacock sampler because the colors look peacockish. But this year their stitch along freebie there's a peacock in the middle of it. I just really love the colorway on this. Dang. Makes me want to stitch on that. This is long though. Look how long this is going to be. I'm going to have to figure out how to finish that where I don't break the bank. Next is the Scarlet House, Good Company. I adore this. Absolutely adore this. She lives on a hill overlooking the sea with only her dogs for good company. She doesn't need less. She doesn't need more than to hear the waves crash into the shore. So here's the deal. When I got this one, there's a spider coming down from the ceiling here. When I got this one, it calls for vintage pear. And the piece of vintage pear I had was extremely gray. It didn't look green at all. So I asked for help, and somebody said, why don't you just order regular pear? So I did. And this is as far as I am. And look at that little sheep and that dog. Now, recently I saw some vintage pear at Acorns and Threads, and it was what I would have expected vintage pear to be, which is basically a mottled pear with a little bit dark in it. And had I seen it in person, you know, it's just, there's so very variation between dialects, but it looked very different than the pear that I had, the vintage pear that I had. Here are the colors for that. So pretty. All right, so here is my, this is from Blackburn Designs for my friend. And isn't this cute? I might have to add that into my plans for this year. But I will continue to work on Love One Another. And this is for a friend of mine whose wife had cancer. Breast cancer. She passed away before I could finish it, which is unfortunate. So, here's the color of the fabric. See how light and light pink and sort of a light periwinkle color. And this I am stitching. It makes such a difference than what's in the book. It looks really nothing like what's in the book. And I'm stitching it with Ruby and Wartaw Dinky Dyes threads. But it is just so smooth. These silks, they're amazing. I love them. Beautiful, gorgeous. We're cruising. We're about half done already. So the next one is Hibernation Day. Now I have been working on this because I thought I would finish it in the fall, but then work happened. The funny thing about the end of the year at work is that it happens every year. And when we're not at risk for not making targets, it sort of creates a frenzy, right? So you work a lot of extra hours. And then I decided I was going to do some stitching for some friends. So I didn't really stitch for myself for a while, probably most of December until after Christmas. But this is Hibernation Day by Heartstring Samplery. I love the snap of winter air and snowflakes on my face. How sweet snowdrifts make the world disappear without a trace. I'll take a day dressed in pajamas in a room without a view. If I can spend the day curled up next to you, let's have a hibernation day, me and you. And I think this is my husband. This is our mantra. Friday night, we want to do nothing but come home and just drink wine and eat pizza. That's our lives. That's who knew that empty nester life would be so joyful that way. So here's how far I am, and I guess I'll sneak this behind. This is how far I am. And if you'll see, I need to I'm starting to work on one of the reindeer. I guess they're reindeer. There's a couple of them up top there. And above that, the beginning of the words and some flowers. And then below, I just have the baskets, basically, bottom border. So, gosh, this would be my next 9. This is part of my next 9 challenge. Michelle Rudy, you have hijacked my whole year's worth of stitching. I'm gonna blame it on you. Now here is Fallen, what is this called? bring the picture. Fallen Leaves or Fallen Roses by Lavender and Lace. And this one, I changed the DMC that was the majority of this to a Gloriana Seaweed. And I'm not sure that you'll be able to see this, but the colors are so... Let me see if this works better. There we go. They're purples, greens, and blues. And this is stitched on... I think this is vintage buttercream. Oh, it's a 40 count. Look at that. It's so pretty. And the pink with the krennic around it, the gold krennic, really jumps off the fabric. So in real life, this really is a striking piece. Now, I'm just, you know, just at the top here. There's a lot of stitches in that top border. But I'm starting to come down, and I can't wait to put her on there and see what she looks like. This is a beautiful piece. I really enjoy working on this piece. And it's sort of an update, right, to a vintage pattern. I did not use Krennic. I used Petite Treasure Braid PB40. So sort of a bright gold. And I wasn't sure how much silk to buy, so I bought 3 skeins, and that's probably too much, but I didn't want to have to go find it again. Right on. I'm going to scooch down a little bit here. Hold on. There we go. Now, this is My Shadow by Heartstring Samplery. I think I bought this off of Beth's Etsy store. And it says, with only a silver needle and a string from the depths of my heart, I will stitch love and beauty into the warp and weft of the world. And I took this with me to Europe. This is on, it looks like, no, it's not Vintage Pearl Barley. Maybe it is Vintage Pearl Barley. But this is my huge start needle. That's all I've got on here. This sort of looks like maybe maple sugar. So it's definitely a Lakeside linens. It's not vintage navy bean, I don't think. So this is one, if I can just, and I'm stitching it with, the thread is Weeks Coal. So it's a black, but it's got nice gray variegation in there. And I want to say, it calls for, that's what it calls for, is cool. And the fabric it calls for is, it just says Weeks 40 count linen. It doesn't say what it is. This is, oh, it is Vintage Pearl Barley. It just has it doesn't look it looks a little grayer than some of the other Vintage Pearl Barley that I have. And I used my Bitsy Bob with this on the plane. This was fantastic. So, you know, this just isn't even going to come off. It's so convenient when you're traveling. It's great in a car. When you have something where you don't have a lot of threads, or you're just you don't have a table to put your stuff on. And then I've got the one where it's got 2, like I could pop that off if I wanted to. And it has a little pocket with a marker if you want to use that. So, check out Kelly Stodola. She's got lots of different designs. I think this is evolved. She has a little bitty one that she makes now that had, I want to say this was in the shape of a sheep or something. It was adorable. It was a mini bob or a tiny bob, or I don't know what it was. Okay, next one. Village of Hawkrun Hollow. 5 million people are stitching this. And every time I see them post it, I'm like, God, I really should get that out and work on it. And this is stitched on, I think it's buttercream. I have a lot of buttercream. I really like buttercream. Over the river lieth a village on a hill. And I started stitching on it, and then I just never got it back out. And I don't know why, because it is beautiful. Like this design, and I'm using DMCs. The colors are great. Next line. Susannah Milne, 1843. Hands Across the Sea. And when I saw this, I thought it's yellow roses, a lot of green, and I absolutely believed right away that this should be on pink fabric. And then one day I went into Acorns and Threads, and there was this powdery pink swag art fabric. And I bought a big old piece of it. And I'm stitching it. This is 40 count. It's 40 count and it's this big. You know, this will probably go down to, this will probably take up most of this fat quarter. The flowers, the yellow flowers, that might just run a little bit of an outline to pop those out a little bit more. There's a lot of satin stitch in these boxes here. And then this, according to the research that Nicola Parkman has done, is likely hops, not flowers, because the girl who, the original author of the sampler came from an area that where they grew a lot of hops. So fun. More mirrors. I should have called this a mirror and sampler parade. So this is, I don't remember the name of this. I think it's Arbor, Rose Arbor. I think that's what it's called. Very pretty. This is being stitched on, I want to say it's a limited edition Crafty Kitten. Sort of a mottled green and linen color. And I have a good part of her done. I just have the bottom of her dress and this urn. And I even put in some beads. And look at like the details. Look at the little buttons on her gloves. Just, and this is all Krennic. It's a copper Krennic color. So it's like you're outside in a Victorian garden and the obelisk and all of this. Just, she's phenomenal. I love her. And I love having Jill Rensel frame my mirrors. I can do about one a year is what I can afford. There's nothing. Oh, guess what? Here's my prairie schooler that I was looking for, the prairie flowers. I looked, while my first video was uploading, I looked forever for this. And I thought it was right under my nose. And I even looked on this table and sure enough, there it was. So I'm working on Elizabeth Mears, J.M. Mears, right? 1833. With Lori, Mischievous Stitches, and Michelle from the Striped Rose. And that house is, it's huge. It's huge. And I have an enormous start on it. This is the bottom fence. I just, you know, I would love to stitch this. It's just simply, there's so many things I want to stitch. I can't tell you. I'm like, I want to stitch everything. I want to stitch it all. Things Unseen. I started this mania last year, and the colors, look at those colors. Beads. I just love those charms and beads. Christine from Stitch All the Things, she's been working on this, and she's either done or she's close to being done. I don't know. This is as far as I got in mania. And but this is Legacy. I want to say it's probably 36 or 40 count Legacy. And she was right. This little flower is fussy. Seems like it should go faster than it does. But a pleasure to stitch on. And then this is Long Dog Samplers. The Love of Two Hearts. And I just only have my working copy left, so it's gonna go in the shred bin when I'm done. I pass my pattern along. Stitched on Sampler Gold by XG Designs. And this fabric is amazing. It's a gold. Definitely a golder, richer fabric. And look at the colors on that. Those colors, they're phenomenal. Phenomenal to work with. So this is my wedding sampler. And I absolutely love it. It's very quirky. Look at that. That swan, somebody called it a chicken, I think. What, the meetup, stitching meetup. We were just joking about it, but I adore this pattern. Love it. In my next 9, that'll be in my next 9 probably. Hannah Sanderson. God bless Kyle Rockemeyer. He stitched the heck out of these letters. And I mean, he stitched them all before he got to the good stuff. And I just started right in the middle because I'm going to eat dessert first. And I started with this butterfly, and it's phenomenal. This is vintage Meadow Rue, and when this pattern first came out, it was first published in a 3-part series of Fine Lines magazine, and now you couldn't find it. I looked for it forever. The gal who owns Dutch Treat Designs reproduced the pattern again, and then this came out in the last 6 months. And there's 2 colorways, a light one and a dark one, and I picked the dark one. So I love this. I'm most likely going to stitch all. I'm going to probably skip all this and just fake the border on the top. Because I mean, actually the saying is great, but I really like the bottom stuff. That's what I really like. Yeah, I love it. Of course, I say that about all my WIPs except for my stuff that's on my Stitch 9, which, if you watch my other video, and it's not that I don't love them, I don't know. Maybe I just don't love them. All right, so this is a vintage, but I just started it last year, Gathering Honey. And this was released in a Cross Stitch and Country Crafts magazine, I believe. I think I have the magazine too. And this is as far as I have stitched, and this is stitched on a very lightly modeled fabric from Dying for Cross Stitch, and she has a Facebook group. This has back stitching on it, but really a lot of it is simply blocks of color, although she does switch out colors on here quite a bit. 2 more, and I probably missed 1 or 2, but I'm not gonna sweat it. So here is probably the most beautiful sampler I've seen. Ann Dale, Big and Beautiful. And it is stitched in, first of all, it's symmetrical, which gives me a lot of pleasure. Look at that bottom band though. All of those swans on the bottom. And a good part of this has red and pink and green. And I'm stitching it on Vintage Patina by Lakeside Linnets. And this is as far as I have gone. And I just need to spend more time because I love this. Now, so some of these colors I might have to switch out, or I might just leave it because it kind of has a vintage look to it. And I even added I added a silk to give it a little bit of a lighter color, like right here. Here's the color palette though. I mean, oh my gosh. I'll stick it on this. Reds, whites, greens, pinks, and a little bit of teal or aqua. Awesome color palette. Such a beautiful pattern. And it's going to be enormous because it's on a fat half, and it's going to take probably a good part of the fat half. And this is a 40 count fabric. So when it's big and beautiful, no doubt it is big and beautiful. Teresa Vanette, Shakespeare Peddler. I adore that pattern. And last but not least is Hoity Toity Long Dog Samplers. I love Long Dog Samplers, and I'm going to be stitching more of these in the future. Hoity Toity. If you watch Instagram, Crafty Kim from Canada finished hers and had it framed, and it just turned out so pretty. And I'm stitching mine on a 40 count something. I don't know what it is. I have to go back to my notes and look. Those colors though, geez, they kill me every time. And I have worked on this, I think, since the last time I showed you. Really probably more over here, up in here. But that's thebomb.com right there. Putting the black behind that band was genius because every single color, it's a symphony. It's gorgeous. So that's it for now. I'm going to be starting some things this year, but I've got to finish the Stitch 9, or at least a couple of the big ones. And then if I could get them done before maybe Mania, a couple of the big ones anyway, I might be able to hold off from stitching and starting some. But gosh, Plum Street came out with a couple of patterns that I love. One was Mrs. Bingley's Library. Another was, I don't know the name of it, it's another one that came out at the same time. And market will be around the corner, so I need to find it. I need to get rich quick scheme so I can just stitch, not work. But I like my job, so I need to find more hours in the day. Thank you for hanging out with me. Have a great Sunday afternoon, and we'll talk with you later. All right, I almost forgot my shout outs, and I've been keeping notes. This is who I've been watching. Java Girl Stitcher has one video up. It's Christy. I think she really likes Lizzie Cates, if I recall. Lost and Floss. I don't think I've shouted out Barb and Leanne, who are a hoot and holler. Southern California Stitchin'. Casey and Dara. Dara I know from a retreat at Crabapple Hill. And Leah Noel Aviatrix Stitcher. I've heard the name Leah Noel, but I couldn't figure out who it was, and then it just came across my feed and I started watching it, and I really enjoy her channel. Gem Stitch. Gemma caused me to go out and buy two patterns yesterday when I looked at her creation sampler. Crafty Kim. Go check out her finish on Hoity Toity. And Sunshine Stitchers, EJ, Gary, and Shelia. They just did a tour of the Crafty Cupboard, their local shop in Miami, and they are awesome. I love their channel. A lot of great energy. They're funny. I enjoy watching them. And Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. Olivia, she and Pretty Southern Joe are friends based on quilting, and then Olivia's getting back into stitching, has been back into stitching for a little bit, but we have a lot of the same tastes there, Olivia. And then the last one, this one's kind of taken the internet by storm. Sassy Stitchin' Sisters and Brother, Maggie, Zoe, and Wyatt. So there's some channels for you to check out, and I will link them below. So have a great day, everyone. Thanks.